This is part 2 of episode 1. What are the differences between Lean, Six Sigma, and Agile? Welcome back for the second part of our first episode. As mentioned before, my name is Tom, and I am the host and creator of the Lean English podcast. If you are listening to the podcast for the first time, we have been discussing the differences between Lean, Six Sigma, and Agile. In part 1, we went through a short history lesson of some of the major events in the development of these process improvement methodologies and shared some comparisons. If that sounds interesting, you may want to listen to it first so you will have some context for what I am about to share. Throughout this second part, I will be referring to graphics that can be found in the PowerPoint presentation for this episode. You can download it at leanenglishconsulting.com or visit the Lean English podcast channel on YouTube. Now, let's take a look at what makes each method work so well, starting with Lean. These are the 5 focusing steps that businesses follow to develop their Lean program. The first step is to specify value, and to do this, we need to answer the question, well, who defines value? In a company that is using Lean, the customer defines value. A company may believe that they have a great idea for a new product or feature that will sell very well, but if the customer doesn't find it valuable, guess what? They are not going to buy it. You can see this clearly when you compare variations of the same product that are sold to different markets around the world. A bestseller in the United States, the large sport utility vehicle or pickup truck, is almost non-existent here in France, where the price of gas is higher and the streets are narrower. Once value is defined, we can map the production process. What will this map show? It will show all the process steps where value is added, as well as all the waste. We said that waste is any activity that does not add value to the product, but another definition is waste is any activity that the customer is not willing to pay for. Is the customer willing to pay a worker to install the steering wheel in their new car? Yes. Is the customer willing to pay more for the car because it takes the worker 20 minutes to find their tools or to fix the steering wheel after they installed it incorrectly? No. This means the company must pay for all the waste because the cost cannot be passed on to the customer. This is why it is so important to identify and remove waste. The third step is to establish flow. Well, how is flow established? Flow is established by removing waste because flow is interrupted when there is waste in the system. For example, one of the most prevalent forms of waste is waiting. We have all worked in companies where we must wait for a response to an email, or wait for supplies to be delivered, or wait for someone to finish their meeting so you can get approval for something. Flow happens when everyone is in sync and the product moves smoothly from one value-added step to another. What is pull and why is it important? Pull represents the demand from the customer who is ready to accept the product. If there is no customer demand, then there is no need to create the product. Restaurants don't make food that has not been ordered because that would be wasteful. And in a lean manufacturing environment, the customer is the next worker in the production process. This marks the difference between an external customer who purchases the final product and an internal customer who is a worker in the company that receives the unfinished product during production and adds value to it in the next step. If flow is established, it can only be maintained if the next step in the process is prepared to work on the product. Designing the process and training the workers to work together is essential to reducing bottlenecks in the production line. When does the cycle end? Lean companies are always seeking perfection. Each solution has its own limitations, and there is always room for improvement. After one problem is solved, it is time to solve the next problem. This is why lean companies become so efficient. They continually refine their work and improve their quality. This helps them rise above their competition. This is the lean diagram. It was published in The Toyota Way by Jeffrey Liker. It is a great book that I highly recommend to anyone interested in learning how Toyota became so dominant. We will speak on this subject in more depth in future episodes, but here is a high-level view of what it means. The Lean building diagram represents Lean's major principles and tools. The Lean motto is at the top of the building: best quality, lowest cost, shortest lead time, best safety, high morale, through shortening the production flow by eliminating waste. The targets are highlighted in bold text to show their importance, while the method is in plain text. Best quality will be created when the company's focus is on adding value to their product or service. Lowest cost will be achieved if there is no waste in the process, and shortest lead time will be a product of a shortened production flow. All these goals can be achieved if the company follows a lean philosophy. And they can do it safely and have high morale because it can only be accomplished if the workers are treated as customers. If they are treated properly, supported, motivated, and valued as if they were customers, then it will be easy to align their personal goals with the goals of the company. In fact, it is the only way for it to happen. Shortening the production flow and eliminating waste sounds nice, but how is it accomplished? It is far more difficult than it sounds. That is what the other parts of the building identify. The left column describes the tools used to create a just-in-time supply chain. The idea is to provide the right part in the right amount at the right time. Not too early, not too late. Maintaining warehouses filled with inventory is costly, and the inventory can become damaged or obsolete over time. This idea works together with production flow to keep the inventory low and the production on time. The right column is dedicated to the principle of jidoka, ensuring that defects are easily detected before reaching the next station, and that the cause of the defect is identified and fixed without disrupting the production flow. Some of this depends on attentive workers and managers who understand what quality looks like. Some of it depends on customizing smart machines which signal when a nonconformity exists. A nonconformity is just another word for a defect. In the middle section of the diagram, we see the emphasis on people and teamwork, continuous improvement, and waste reduction. Hiring the right people helps the company develop teamwork. Lean companies are great places to work, so they can be selective when hiring new staff members. Ringi decision-making refers to the practice of workers requesting a change in the process from their superiors. As they are the people most intimately involved in the process, their requests are taken seriously. Only companies with well-trained workers who share the company's goals can use this practice. Continuous improvement is a staple of a Kaizen attitude. the idea that small incremental adjustments can eventually lead to massive gains over time. As we saw in the previous slide, the fifth focusing step is to work toward perfection. Even though perfection is never achieved, it is always pursued. It is imperative that everyone in the company work to reduce waste. The company trains all employees to focus on making their job easier and more efficient and gives them license to make suggestions about improvements. Managers are instructed to use Genchi Genbutsu to examine their problems. This is a method of going to the right place and observing the processes to better understand what is happening. It is the first step for any problem solving or 5 whys root cause analysis. Toyota's managers are required to be present and hands on during their investigations. The foundation of the lean building are 4 important principles. Haijunka requires that all the processes have the same level of work. This enables production to flow easily, as there is not one step that takes more time or effort than the others. Stable and standardized processes create predictable outcomes. They also create predictable products for customers with high expectations. When something does not perform how it has always performed, then managers are alerted to a defect and are prompted to act. Visual management is a tool lean companies use to stay updated on production performance and to help workers complete tasks. It is much easier to manage a process or perform a task when there are visual cues everywhere that show you how to do your job. And the Toyota Way philosophy supports everything. Have respect for people and continuously improve. Those 2 rules alone can help guide companies through any major decision. Again, we will discuss these principles in greater detail in future episodes, so stay tuned. Now let's talk about Six Sigma. The Six Sigma project model is divided into 5 phases: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. We often use the acronym DMAIC and say DMAIC. As mentioned before, there is a toll gate meeting after each phase to determine if the team is allowed to move on to the next phase. The define phase is when the problem is identified and scoped and consensus is built for the project. As in traditional project management, a project charter is written. A Six Sigma project charter is a formal document that authorizes a process improvement project, defining its scope, objectives, team structure, and success criteria, serving as a contract between the project team and organizational leadership. It is reviewed and signed by senior management, who require that the use of company resources be financially justified. Unlike lean actions that can be performed for many different reasons, Six Sigma projects must improve the company's net profit. They must justify the use of resources. Otherwise, the project will not be approved. Once the charter is approved, the team holds a kickoff meeting where all the stakeholders discuss the plan for the project. During the measure phase, the team collects data on the process to understand the problem in a quantitative way. Here are some questions the team may answer. What is the basis of the customer's complaints? How many defects are we creating? Where does the defect occur on the product? Which process steps are experiencing the issues? Is there a pattern that emerges when we examine the defects closely? How does our current situation and performance differ from our expectations? Has our supplier changed the composition of their parts or material? Answering these questions bring us closer to understanding the problem. The analyze phase sees the team use statistical analysis to identify the root cause of the problem and quantify its impact. Now that we have collected all the measurements concerning our current state during the measure phase, we can perform root cause analysis and test our assumptions. This is when we switch from descriptive statistics, which tell us about the quantity of our problem, to analytical statistics, which help us identify the cause of our problem. For example, merely understanding that I am exactly 10 kilos overweight does not help me solve my problem. I must understand why I am overweight so I will be able to change my behavior in a meaningful way. The improve phase identifies improvement strategies and puts them in place. As soon as the root cause has been identified, it is in the improve phase that we generate solutions, test our theories, and run experiments to optimize our performance. Designing experiments correctly is critical to better performance because we are trying to find the best results without spending too much time and money. If the experiments are not designed properly, at best, the team will not reach their desired results in time. At worst, the team will waste time and money creating a solution that does not solve the problem or optimize performance and quality. The control phase ensures that the improvements that have been made continue. After all the team's effort, the last thing that should happen is a return to the past. It sounds simple, but creating a change and keeping the change are two different things. Change management requires that the team understand the mentality of the workers and managers who will be responsible for implementing the team's solution. They need to provide the training, materials, and tools to help make the transition from current state to future state simple. Monitoring the performance of the future state is also critical, as we must address any inconsistencies as soon as they occur to keep bad habits from returning. Now that we have discussed the DMAIC life cycle, let's talk about the roles and responsibilities of the Six Sigma project team members. The main stakeholders are members of the organization that have an interest in the outcome of the project. The project sponsor is an executive level manager who helps the company align process improvement projects with the company's goals. If the company recognizes that it must improve in a certain area, the sponsor directs the project management office to create projects to fix the problem. The sponsor delegates the project champion to manage the operation of the projects. This is a middle level manager who is responsible for the resources that the project team will use and is the main beneficiary of the improvement. They will take part in progress and tollgate meetings to determine if the team has completed all the necessary work before moving to the next phase. They are supported by two experts: the process owner, who is the manager directly responsible for the process that is being investigated, and a Six Sigma belt, who is the Six Sigma expert. The process owner understands the process intimately and can answer all the questions the team has. The belt, a master black belt, or green belt, depending on the size and scope of the project, guides the team through the project and ensures they are using the right tools at the right time. They are also responsible for training employees and working with the PMO to ensure best practices are maintained. Subject matter experts are normally workers who have been with the company for a long time and have deep insight into the process. They are joined by other team members who work in the process and help the team gather data, perform tests, and brainstorm ideas. The data analyst supports the belt in performing statistical analysis. They are normally technical experts as well, able to find historical data relevant to the project, and set up business intelligence software to make sure future analysis is easier. We have already discussed a little about how Agile changed how software is developed. This graph shows the different structures of the two methods. Much like Six Sigma, Waterfall is a toll-gated project management method that requires all the work from one phase to be completed before work in the next phase begins. It emphasizes planning and requirements gathering before the work begins and offers minimal contact with the customer as the project progresses. Any changes in requirements need to be approved through committees, and contracts may need to be rewritten. For these reasons, customers are hesitant to get too involved in the project. In Agile, the requirements gathering and contract negotiation are kept to a minimum. In fact, during the entire project, documentation is kept to a minimum to dedicate all the resources to writing high-quality code. This is possible because the customer is seen as a resource, a partner in the development process. This also means that managers must trust the development team to create the software without constant supervision. As soon as the initial requirements are gathered, they are listed on the product backlog and prioritized by the product owner, the customer's representative in the company. Product owners prioritize the requirements and ensure that the team understands what needs to be created. To make this clearer, the requirements are written in the form of user stories that help the team imagine the functionality that the requirement provides the end user. The end user is the person who will use the software in their daily work. After the user stories are prioritized during the sprint planning meeting, the team sets a time limit to complete a certain number of tasks and agrees to complete the work in the given time. This is called a sprint. During the sprint, normally 2 to 4 weeks, the team focuses on writing high-quality code, and the Scrum Master does everything in their power to support the team and provide the resources and training to help the team achieve their goal. During the sprint, the team holds daily stand-up meetings that only last 15 minutes. This limits the time the team spends in non-productive activities and allows the Scrum Master to learn how they can serve the team. The Scrum Master then updates the team's status boards, informing leadership on the team's progress. This reduces the number of interruptions from executive leadership. After the sprint is completed, the customer is invited to the sprint review meeting where the team shows them the progress they have made on the product. The customer then provides feedback and gives more clarity about their expectations. This serves two purposes. First, it further informs the product owner who uses the feedback to clarify and prioritize the user stories on the product backlog. Second, the meeting holds the team accountable for their work, as they must present workable software to the customer, even if it is incomplete. After the sprint review, the team meets to evaluate their performance in the sprint retrospective. They speak about what went well, what did not go well, and how to improve during the next sprint. Meanwhile, the product owner reprioritizes the product backlog and refines the user stories to help the team choose the most critical items to develop during the next sprint. In this manner, the customer provides valuable feedback to the team before too much time is wasted developing something that does not meet their expectations. It also gives the customer the opportunity to accept delivery of the product once it meets their expectations. This helps the customer shorten the time to market and deliver a product before it becomes obsolete by another company's product. As mentioned earlier, Agile is heavily influenced by Lean. Here are just some of the ways Lean appears in Agile: adaptive learning and continuous improvement. The sprint retrospective gives the team the opportunity to review their performance, learn from their past mistakes, and improve in the next sprint. The Scrum Master stays in touch with the team and provides any training that they need to overcome new obstacles. Focus on delivering high quality. There are many methods that Agile practitioners use to ensure that the quality of the product is high. For example, paired programming is the practice of having programmers work together, one junior level programmer entering the code and the senior level programmer reviewing it in real time. This ensures that problems are identified before they become part of the final product. The goal is to deliver what the customer expects with zero defects. Activities are graded for their value, meetings are minimized. Agile projects are started with the minimum amount of planning and documentation because they know that value is not added with more paperwork. The customer is paying for workable software, not additional meetings. One-piece flow. The sprints help the team focus only on a few tasks at a time. This reduces poor multitasking and inventory that is a waste until completed. Roles and responsibilities are similar to lean management. The Scrum Master is the servant leader who gives the team the ability to make decisions about how the work should be completed, and executives are open to hearing how it can be improved. And leadership is kept up to date with visual management tools, which replace time-consuming progress meetings. Quality is a part of the process, and waste is removed. It is easier to design processes that produce high-quality software than it is to use wasteful processes and fix the bugs and repair the code after it has been written. Well, that brings the training portion of this episode to an end. Congratulations, you made it all the way through. I'm proud of you. You didn't give up no matter how boring it became. And to be honest, I was pretty bored too. And after reading and editing this for the past week, I am really tired of the sound of my own voice. But be that as it may, we have more episodes coming, and here is the plan. Our next episode will be a look at lean management exclusively, then Six Sigma and Agile. I know that this episode was quite long and I had to cut it into 2 parts, so I may have to do the same with the next episodes. There is just too much material to cover. And hopefully, I will hear from some of you about topics that interest you or problems that you may have, and I can address those in the coming weeks and months. And finally, here is our contact information. You can find us at leanenglishconsulting.com and send us an email at info@leanenglishconsulting.com. I would love to hear from you. As I mentioned earlier, there is a PowerPoint presentation and transcript of this episode on our site and on the Lean English Podcast YouTube channel. So check those out as well. Now, I write and produce all my podcasts by myself, and unfortunately, this is my own voice. It is not AI. So hit the like button and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I greatly appreciate it. Well, that's it for today. Until next time, be good, and I'll talk to you later.